I am in love with you, goddess of the forest.
You will not believe this story. A young hunter walked into a forbidden forest and fell in love with a goddess. Yes, a goddess. But what happened after that will shock you. If you love African folktale stories, don't forget to like this video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more engaging stories like this. Now, let's dive in. The village of Udo woke before the sun. A faint golden light stretched across the sky as women swept their compounds in slow, practiced rhythms, their brooms whispering against the earth. Men prepared for the farms, tying wrappers and lifting their tools onto their shoulders. Children ran barefoot along dusty paths, their laughter rising like birds greeting the morning. Life moved early in Udo, but one man was always awake before them all. Obinna, a hunter by skill and a storyteller by nature. Before the first cockcrow, he would step out of his hut, breathe in the cool morning air, and glance toward the forest, not with fear, but with quiet respect. Then, without noise or pride, he would disappear into its depths. Obinna did not hunt like other men. He did not rush. He did not waste. He listened, and the forest, in return, provided. When he returned each day, strength resting easily on his shoulders, he never went straight home. He shared, first with the widow whose fire rarely burned, then with the old man whose legs could no longer carry him, then with the children who waited at the edge of the path, eyes bright with hope. A hunter does not eat alone, he would say, cutting the meat with calm precision. And because of that, his name carried warmth wherever it was spoken. But night revealed another part of him. Under the wide Udala tree, when the village grew quiet and the moon took its place in the sky, Obinna became something else entirely. A storyteller without words. He would lift his flute and play. The first note would settle into the air like a secret. Then the melody would grow, soft, then deep, then alive. People gathered without invitation. Children sat closest. Women listened in silence. Even the elders, though they said nothing, never missed a night. Because his music was not just sound, it was emotion. It carried sorrow, joy, longing, and something ancient that stirred the heart without warning. Yet, for all his goodness, one question followed him like a shadow. Why is Obinna still alone? He is strong, he is kind, he is handsome, so why no wife? Some whispered quietly, maybe his heart does not belong to any woman. Beyond the village stood a forest no one dared enter. Forbidden. Its trees stood thicker, darker, as though guarding something unseen. Even the wind seemed to avoid it. It was said a goddess lived there, beautiful, but dangerous. Men who entered never returned the same. Some came back broken, some came back silent, and some never came back at all. So the elders warned, do not go near it, and the village obeyed. That night, Obinna sat outside his hut beneath a quiet sky and played a soft, wandering tune. The melody drifted into the darkness, fading gently into the unseen. Then, suddenly, it returned. The same tune, but changed, deeper, answered. Obinna froze. The flute slipped slightly in his grip as his eyes slowly turned toward the forbidden forest. His heart began to beat louder, not with fear, but with something far more dangerous, curiosity.
Before dawn broke over Udo, before the village stirred awake, Obinna made a decision. He would go. And somewhere deep within the forbidden forest, something had already heard him. Obinna entered the forest at first light. The morning sun stretched gently across the trees, and at the edge, everything felt normal. Birds sang freely above him. Leaves rustled beneath his feet. The earth smelled familiar, alive, welcoming, known. For a brief moment, he almost smiled. So this is what they fear. But as he moved deeper, something changed. The songs of the birds faded first, then the whisper of the leaves, then even the distant hum of life itself, until all that remained was silence. Not the peaceful silence of dawn, but the kind that listens. Obinna slowed his steps, his senses sharpened, his breathing grew quieter. This was no longer the forest he knew. Then he heard it, a flute, soft, distant, echoing through the trees like a memory. The same melody from the night before, but clearer now, closer, calling him. His chest tightened. Every instinct told him to turn back, but something deeper pulled him forward. He followed, step by step, careful, drawn, unable to resist. Mist began to rise around his feet, slow, creeping, curling like fingers around his ankles. It moved unnaturally, as if it had a mind of its own. The melody grew stronger, then stopped. Suddenly, Obinna froze. The silence that followed pressed against his ears, a heavy, thick, almost suffocating. Then he felt it, a presence, behind him. Not heard, not seen, but known. His body went still, his heart pounded loudly in his chest. Slowly, very slowly, he turned and saw her. She stood between the trees, still, watching him. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Her beauty struck him first, unnatural, too perfect. Her skin glowed faintly, like moonlight resting on calm water. Her eyes were deep, ancient, carrying something far older than the forest itself. Her hair moved gently, though there was no wind. Obina's breath caught in his throat. His mind struggled to understand what he was seeing. Then the fear came, sudden, sharp, overwhelming. She stepped forward, just one step. The mist shifted with her, the air trembled slightly. Obina stumbled back, his grip tightening on nothing, his heart pounded wildly. This was no spirit he had ever heard of. No story had prepared him for this. For a long moment, they stared at each other, man and something not of his world. Then she tilted her head, slightly, curiously, as if he were the stranger. That was enough. Obina turned and ran. Branches clawed at his skin, roots tried to trip his feet, his breath broke into sharp, uneven gasps, but he did not stop. He could not stop. He ran until the silence broke, until the sounds returned, until the forest released him. At the edge, he collapsed, his body trembling, his chest heaving, sweat dripping down his face. Alive. She is real, he whispered, his voice barely steady. But even as fear held him tightly, another thought crept in, quiet, persistent, dangerous. She did not harm me. And then, the one thought he could not escape. She was beautiful. For 2 days, Obina avoided the forest. He kept to the familiar paths, hunting only where the trees were known and the air felt safe. He returned home as usual, shared his catch, smiled when spoken to, and sat beneath the udala tree at night to play his flute. To anyone watching, nothing had changed.
But inside him, everything had. His music no longer flowed the same way. It wavered, paused, felt unfinished, like a story missing its ending. The villagers noticed. It sounds different, one woman whispered. Like something is disturbing his spirit, another replied. But Obina said nothing, because he knew. At night, when the world grew quiet and even the crickets softened their songs, he heard it again. Not from outside, but from within. That same melody, the one that had answered him, it lingered in his chest, in his thoughts, in his silence, calling him. By the third day, he could no longer resist. This time, he left his spear behind. Only his flute rested in his hand. When he entered the forest, the change came faster. The sounds faded almost immediately. The air thickened. The mist rose as if it had been waiting, but Obina did not run. He walked deeper, then stopped. Slowly, he sat on the cold earth, closed his eyes, and played. The first note trembled, uncertain. The second steadied. Then the melody flowed, gentle, open, inviting. It was no longer a hunter's song, it was a reaching. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the air shifted. Not violently, not suddenly, but softly, like something stepping closer without sound. Obina opened his eyes. She was there, closer than before, clearer, watching him. But this time, she did not move with mystery or threat. She stood still, listening. Her expression softened, curiosity replaced distance. There was something new in her gaze, something almost human. Obina felt his fear rise again, but it did not take control. It lingered and settled. He continued playing, and for the first time the forest did not feel like a place of danger. It felt like a place that listened. The mist no longer crawled, it rested. The silence no longer pressed, it held. When the final note faded, the world stood still. She took a step closer. Obina did not move. His hands rested quietly on the flute. His eyes remained on her. Their gaze met again, but this time there was no running, no chasing, no fear that demanded escape. Only something quiet, something growing, something neither of them understood, but something they both felt. And in that moment, between man and mystery, between sound and silence, between fear and curiosity, something had begun. And it was real. Obina returned to the forest, again, and again, and again. At first he came with caution, then with curiosity, and soon with longing. Each visit erased a little more distance between them. What once stood as fear became familiarity. What once felt forbidden began to feel necessary. She no longer stayed hidden between the trees. She stood closer now, sometimes only a few steps away, sometimes close enough for him to see the faint movement of her breath. And then, she began to speak. Her voice was soft, unsteady, like someone learning how to exist in sound. Each word came slowly, as if it had to be discovered before it could be spoken. "I have no name," she told him one evening, her eyes fixed on his. "No past you would understand." Obina tilted his head slightly. "What do you have?" She paused, as if searching for something that had never needed to be named. "Existence," she said quietly. "The forest." Obina smiled, not in fear, not in confusion, but in acceptance. "Then I will call you something," he said gently, "something that belongs to now." She watched him carefully, curious. "Amara," he said, "because you are beautiful." The word lingered in the air, and for the first time, she smiled. From that moment, everything changed. Obina laughed with her, played for her, taught her words, simple ones at first: sky, tree, water. She repeated them slowly, as if tasting each one, learning not just language, but meaning. And slowly, very slowly, Obina stopped seeing her as something to fear. But the village began to notice. He goes too often. He returns with no game. He smells of that forest. Whispers grew louder. Eyes followed him. Questions formed without answers. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Eldon Dwankwil stopped him on the path. "You walk a dangerous path," the old man said, his voice heavy with knowing. Obina stood still, silent. "That forest does not give without taking," Dwankwil continued, gripping his staff tightly. "Whatever you have found there," he paused, "will demand a price." For a moment, Obina said nothing, because deep down, he already knew. But his heart had chosen, and the heart does not always listen to warnings. That night, beneath the quiet breath of the forest, she looked at him differently, not with curiosity, not with distance, but with something deeper. "I am not like you," she said softly. Her eyes darkened slightly, shadows flickering within them. "If you stay, something may happen to you." There was fear in her voice now, real fear, not for herself, but for him. Obina did not step back. Instead, he moved closer, close enough to feel the strange stillness that surrounded her. "Or," he said gently, "something good may happen." Silence fell between them. For the first time, she looked afraid, not of him, but of what she was becoming. The forest was quiet that night, too quiet. No wind moved, no leaves whispered. Even the mist seemed to wait, suspended in the air like something holding its breath. Obina stood before her, closer than he had ever been, close enough to feel the strange stillness that surrounded her. "I want to try something," he said softly. Her reaction was immediate. She shook her head. "No." The word came sharper than usual, almost afraid. Obina frowned slightly. "Why?" Her eyes flickered, something uncertain moving within them. "Because I do not know what I am capable of." There was no mystery in her voice this time, only truth, only fear. Obina reached for her hand, slowly, carefully. When their fingers touched, he felt it again, cold but not empty, not lifeless. "What if," he said gently, his voice steady, "you are capable of something good?" She searched his face, deeply, as if trying to understand something she had never known before. Fear lingered in her eyes, but so did something else, hope. "I could hurt you," she whispered. Obina gave a small, quiet smile. "And you could change." The words settled between them, heavy, unavoidable. Silence followed, long, breathing. Then, slowly, very slowly, she nodded. It was not certainty, it was surrender. Obina stepped closer. His heart pounded, not with fear, but with faith.
He lifted his hand gently to her face, paused, then leaned in. Their lips met. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, everything did. The air shifted violently. A force surged through the forest. The trees trembled. The ground pulsed beneath them. Light burst from her body, bright, blinding, alive. The mist spiraled wildly around them like something awakened. Obina was thrown back, his body hitting the earth hard. He raised his arm, shielding his eyes from the sudden glow. The forest roared without sound, a silent storm, a transformation unfolding. Her body began to change. The glow softened. The light faded into warmth. Her form shifted, subtle, then undeniable. The weight of her presence lifted. The air once heavy around her became light, breathable, human. Then suddenly, stillness. The forest calmed. The mist settled. The light disappeared. Silence returned. Obina slowly lowered his arm, his breath uneven, his heart racing. He looked up and saw her. She stood before him, changed. No longer distant, no longer untouchable. More human, more real, more alive. Her eyes held something new now, not ancient, not unreachable, but present, feeling, awake. And somehow, she was even more beautiful. But this time, her beauty did not feel dangerous. It felt possible. Obina brought her to Udo. They arrived at dawn.
The village was just waking, smoke rising from cooking fires, voices stretching into the morning. But the moment people saw her, everything stopped. Eyes followed them. Whispers rose instantly. She came from that forest. She is not human. This is not right. Fear spread faster than truth. Mothers pulled their children closer. Men watched from a distance, unsure whether to speak or stay silent. Even the elders said nothing at first. But she did not react. She did not threaten. She did not hide. She simply stood beside Obina, calm, quiet, learning. Days passed, then weeks, and slowly the fear began to weaken. She greeted people softly, learned their ways, watched, listened, adapted. She fetched water with the women, sat with the children, spoke gently, choosing her words with care. And the village noticed. She smiles like us. She learns like us. Maybe she is one of us now. Curiosity replaced fear, and over time, curiosity became acceptance. Obina married her. The celebration was unlike any the village had seen. Drums echoed into the night. Laughter filled the air. Even those who once doubted came to witness what they could not explain. And in their home, life blossomed. There was laughter, warmth, peace. And for the first time in his life, Obina's music changed again. When he played, it no longer carried longing. It no longer searched. It had found. The melodies became fuller, richer, complete. People felt it immediately. "This is different," one elder said quietly. "This is a man who has found what his soul was looking for." And for a while, everything was perfect. But not entirely. Because sometimes, late at night, when the village slept, she would step outside, barefoot, silent, drawn by something she could not explain. She would stand still, facing the distant darkness of the forest, and listen, not with fear, not with longing, but with something deeper, something unfinished, as if a part of her still belonged there, as if the forest had not fully let her go. And though she never spoke of it, Obina began to notice. But he said nothing, because some things are not meant to be forced, and some mysteries do not end. Moral lesson: what is not meant to harm you may still test you, and what feels like danger may be the beginning of something greater.
If you love powerful African folktale storytelling, don't forget to like this video, comment your thoughts, share with others, and subscribe for more deeply engaging stories.